So, Delhi, where I'm supposed to be going pretty soon, because I've given my word. Delhi, which is the capital of India, is known as the rape capital of the world. Like in every corner, there's a woman getting raped. And you probably heard about that terrible story about the woman with the was raped by supposedly 4 guys. And I'm sure the guys who were caught were framed for it, but somebody fucking brutalized that woman. But it just brought more attention to the fact that Delhi was the rape capital of the world. But I wonder if there's much truth to that. I probably think that the culture of Delhi is probably anti-feminist, and that's probably why they're slandering the whole city. But anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to share some information, actually. Share a story from my past. So I grew up in India, first in the rural part, and then when I was a little boy, like 5 years old, I moved to Bombay, which is a new Bombay actually, in a new port township. Um, but I did have a romantic interest, I guess, with a girl where in Assam, where I was in the rural areas. And then even in Bombay, I mean, like, the culture was becoming more feminist in the 90s. But I remember getting a lot of female attention in India. But when I came to America, suddenly I went from the equivalent of a, normal, average looking or above average looking young woman to maybe somebody, the same woman who got in an accident and is now disabled and doesn't get the same amount of attention anymore. And in fact, men look at her with disgust sometimes. And the same situation happened when I came from India to America. Suddenly, I went from being a desirable male to a immigrant, I guess, the lowest social status. A male in America, an Asian male, just like a white male, in a communist part of America. And anyway, so it was interesting not just seeing the change in women's attitudes towards me once I went from being an Indian in India to an Indian in America, but even the women in my own family started becoming more feminist and more crazy and more vicious and just more draining, basically, on the psyche. And so this event happened to me when I was 12 when I came to America. So imagine a pubescent, a puberty, a guy just going through puberty and having such a weird transformation happen to him, right? So that was some background into my childhood and what happened when I came to America. So they say like knowledge comes from pain, self-knowledge especially. You guys have probably witnessed that yourselves. So pain brings knowledge. So perhaps that's why I'm understanding certain things about gender. And that's the topic of this video. I was studying, like I said, pain brings knowledge. So when I was in college, and that was another very feminist, communist environment. So when I was in college, I started reading into that pickup artist community, specifically this guy called David D'Angelo. And he has some interesting material, which is a good summary of the whole PUA, almost religion now, which is transformed into MRA and MikTao, I think, or it's in the similar manosphere, basically. So anyway, I learned a lot about theories about evolutionary biology and gender and social relations and so forth, and sexual attraction through studying that back in college a little bit. It was very theoretical, and it was still propaganda in a sense, just like feminism is, because you're an artificial construct, like I say. Um, in a Plato's cave, so to speak. So, what happened was that I had a little bit of background into this thing, but I became more religious in my 20s and got into conspiracy theory later on. But before that, I became religious, and I realized that the social and the sexual situation when I was in college wasn't really in my favor. So instead of wasting energy, I got into this philosophy called brahmacharya, which is an Indian version, a religious version of the celibacy vow. So I decided to do that. Interestingly, when I started becoming more attractive to females, I guess, or became better looking at least. Um, when I was like maybe 20, yeah, like in my early 20s. So anyway, I became celibate for a few years and just realized that it was better not to, focus on chasing tail, so to speak, and just worry about developing myself, and that was because of a book I read, especially that really was really interesting and really motivated me and inspired me to take on that vow. Um, but yeah, I've been doing that for like 10 years. But recently, what happened is like around the time of I started, well, I became a teacher, and then soon after that is this whole Me Too shit happened, and it was on the news, and I was in my 20s, in my late 20s, and until I was in my early 30s, I guess. I was really into conspiracy theories, and looking at the alternative view of everything and trying to understand that. I mean, I dedicated years to this, and I wasn't even working at that time, so I could totally dedicate years to studying this stuff. But when I turned 30, and I started becoming thinking about a material and financial situation, I kind of had to basically just stop thinking about those things and just focus on other things and more, career oriented things in early 30s. So I stopped thinking about it. I totally, I was like, it might be true. It's probably true, but I don't want to hear somebody else's views. I just want to see everything for myself. So I just totally ignored that and try to go into the mainstream. Um, but after Me Too, and when Me Too happened, I just totally didn't watch the news or anything, but I saw it in the news all the time whenever I looked at my phone. So I was like, God damn, this is obviously like some kind of agenda. Yeah, I mean, my thinking just went right there because I knew that the situation of women coming towards and trying to attack this one man, like a Jesus type of figure, and all these women coming out after decades after it happened, and with all these powerful men, and really got me thinking. It just seemed very fishy to me, the whole story and everything. And then there were false allegations coming out later, which didn't surprise me at all. But I really wasn't following it, and I remember as a teacher or teaching assistant, the young sixth graders, they were all always trying to like ask me about sex and talking about sex and stuff, and I was totally like, first off, I was celibate, and I was in the scene, and I was in like, I didn't know much about women, all I knew was that PUA stuff, of how attraction is not a choice and all that stuff of David D'Angelo, and other stuff. I mean, I knew some things, but I just didn't want to go there, talk about sex with these kids in a culture where people all very politically correct and everything. But these kids were always like pushing me, and they would call me a pervert too and stuff, because I guess, because they figured out that was my sensitive area. Those fucking little genius bastards. But anyway, uh, yeah. So I just didn't deal with it. But one of my Toastmaster fucking club dudes, he started talking to me and started talking to me about this MikTao stuff, you know. And he started talking about how this is a matriarchy, and he's sick of this matriarchy. And I didn't even watch all those YouTube red pill stuff or alternative stuff now. The new freaking, distraction for everybody instead of the conspiracy theory stuff, I guess. But I wasn't following this MGTOW stuff, you know. But soon after, actually, a month or 2 months before, he talked to me about this stuff at the party. Um, I got in trouble when I started my new job. Not my new job; it was my old job. But I started really getting into substitute teaching, you know. And I guess it was just a bad day, a couple bad things on my end. And I get in trouble for sexual harassment with a girl who was basically just irritated at me, you know, and accused me of like flirting with her and all this shit. And I wasn't really flirting with her. I mean, you know, maybe at the start it might have been obvious that I thought she was attractive, but afterwards, it's like I realized she was just a college kid, you know, not who I thought she was, and I just thought of her as a little sister. But because I was talking to her and asking her a lot of stuff, she thought I was like, either she thought I was hitting on her, or, which is my belief, she was just a Jezebel and used that situation where it seemed like I was hitting on her or bugging her or, you know, using my position to, I guess, pick her up or something. She used that to her advantage to complain against me. And she did tell me in our conversation that she was a realist. Which later I figure is like a code word for a psychopath or something, but or someone who just doesn't have any moral, natural moral, follow natural moral laws, I think. But yeah, she fucking said that I didn't let her leave because I was asking her questions and trying to talk to her after she was done working. You know, like it's reasonable, I thought. But yeah, she complained against me. So that incident happened, but I didn't really think too much of it. But in the discussion with my supervisor, he said that you cannot do this ever again. And I was like, what the fuck did I even do? But he said you cannot get an allegation because he said that it's you versus her. So basically, you're innocent without any evidence. Pretty much in the corporate world, it seems. So in the work world. So yeah, I was really surprised by his statement that if this ever happens one more time, then you're out of here. And I was like, wow, okay. I didn't even fucking try to fucking ask her a number or pick her up or anything. All I was trying to be was a big brother, you know. And actually, what it was is that I was in my Toastmasters club. I was doing this whole thing of working on your interpersonal communication skills, you know. I started that manual, so I was just working on my first project, which is conversing with ease. So you know, you just talk to people, different types of people, and try to have a good conversation with them. And obviously, I failed in the real world because I did not understand these sexual tensions and politics of this new age of the 2019 or 2017 post Me Too, you know. Because I did not really stay in touch. I wasn't really connected. I just had my little work job and I had my online job, and that's all I did. Materialistically minded. So yeah, I got in trouble the first time. Then I got in a conversation with that guy, and then another guy gave a speech talking about how he got fucking divorce raped twice in his life, and I was shocked that you could go from having like everything to having $60 in your pocket, you know, for the second time in your life just because you got divorce rate. So that was another eye opener for me. And then after that, oh, shit, that was in January when I heard this speech. And then, yeah, I started getting into the YouTube stuff and researching these things. You know, actually, what it was that I realized, actually, yeah, I found this YouTube video somehow about this matriarchy stuff and all this stuff, you know, and what he was talking about. And it kind of made a lot of sense. In India, the same thing is going on where I guess the females there are also crazy after Me Too movement. So I guess like yeah, there's a lot of MikTao stuff in Indian YouTube channels too. So it's interesting. There might be some kind of coordination going on. It's not purely from the people, I believe. But so yeah, this concerned me, seeing all this anti-woman sentiment and realizing that the gender relation situation was really bad. So I decided to really dedicate myself to this topic. So I announced to the club that I was going to make a speech on this in the next month or so, on this topic of gender relationships. And what I thought was that since we in the West and in modern societies are so confused about gender and how things should be between men and women, and even how life should be really, but since we're so confused, I figured maybe I should research natural tribal societies, because I remember learning about some things about gender from Alan Watt, who basically believes that this artificial system is the reason we have all this suffering on this planet and all this evil on this planet. And Adam and Eve were tribal people basically, before Satan corrupted them. So um, I decided to do this topic, but I was getting in some fights with some of the leaders because of this. The president of the club was just a prick to me, and no appreciation, no respect for what I felt. So I got in a fight, and my anti-female sentiment started coming out a little bit too in that fight, because basically everybody turned against me, because I don't know. I guess I was just my personality, I was too gung ho, too enthusiastic. So I guess it irritated the many of the people in the club too. And I think the previous president, oh, big fucking nasty feminist older lady, a witch basically, pretty much a witch. That's the wife she gave me. This witch was, yeah, I think she turned a lot of people, or got a lot of bad people into the club, because the culture totally became nasty in the club, in my opinion, and I got a lot of disrespect for no reason at all. That started the whole process, basically, through her presidency. And maybe it's my fault. Maybe I wasn't being a good leader, too. I was slacking on my leadership role of secretary or treasurer or whatever little fucking role I took that term. But anyway, so I got in a fight with the club, and I wasn't able to give the speech. And that's why I've been doing all this stuff on YouTube talking about gender. Because I got in trouble with the school for talking about gender in a biology class, and I got in trouble at the club for talking about gender. So I realized that gender is the topic that the system doesn't want you to talk about or know about even. So, or actually, they want you to know about in their Luciferian propaganda, but they don't want you to talk about it. They just want you, I guess, to, blow some fucking feminist church up or something. Uh, but so yeah, I realized that all this fucking YouTube shit going on wasn't really right, because it's like, why is there suddenly this mass movement of female awareness? Female awareness of female nature, which is brilliant. I mean, it's quite insightful, but it's very negative too, and it's also not showing the whole picture and solutions. Therefore, because it's not showing you the whole picture, so it only gives you a part of the truth. And like my parents told me, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. So that's why I started doing this research. But unfortunately, there's been, because of maybe the word choice I use, or maybe the state of the affairs of the culture and the misunderstandings that people have, which I believe is more accurate, I got in a lot of trouble for just discussing these topics and sharing my frustrations, basically. So yeah, that's why I believe there's an anti-male sentiment in this modern communist, liberal society of ours. And yeah, that's why I say fuck misandry. Fuck this misandry, yo. So I started doing some research. Okay, this is my first part. I guess it's already 20 minutes. I just want to talk about, I guess this is a good introduction. I'll do another 20 or two 20-minute videos, I guess, on this topic and finish it off and explain why rape is good. Peace.